Halo Episode 6 showed up and belched a bunch of stupid all over the place. I'm gonna clean it up and break it down now. And maybe I'm the only guy that feels like this, but it seems to me that with most new TV shows and movies these days, you're more likely to get more enjoyment out of taking your nutsack to a rusty cheese grater than you are to actually sit down and watch any of this crap start to finish without having a stroke. But before I get completely into it, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, leave me a comment below about what you think about the Halo series and consider subbing to the channel, I'd appreciate it. And as always, thank you guys for the support. I really do appreciate everybody coming back to... So fear not, boys, your buddy Winterwolf's got this episode covered so you don't have to. Halo Episode 6, Solace, stuffs more hilariously stupid shit into a single hour of television than you're likely to find anywhere else. From basic errors in medical technology, medical service, and basic military and legal operations, it makes me wonder if the showrunners of this garbage have ever actually held a professional job other than series writer. The glaring lack of understanding when it comes to how anything in the real world works is appalling and concerning. Here's a 60-second recap of the stupid that happened on screen, that way you guys don't have to get into it. We open up, humans are dealing with the fallout of losing the battle in episode 5 and losing the Keystone. The chief is ill, he apologizes for losing the artifact. Key says, it's cool, don't worry about it, you actually saved everybody's lives. I don't remember how he did that in episode 5, I'll have to go back and check. The chief almost murders Halsey to test Cortana's limits. For some reason, Halsey doesn't order her to shut him down before she gets herself killed. Why can't Cortana open a door? No idea. The council conspires to remove Halsey from her position at the head of the Spartan program. They stupidly appoint a compromised chief to debrief McKee. She gives up a location. The USNC looks into it. A JAG officer plays the entrapment card on Halsey. Chief hijacks that conversation and gets the truth from Halsey about his background. He has a minor public outburst after the fact. We get first of 2 pointless Kai scenes. Paragonsky extorts Halsey out of the Spartan program. Chief gets increasingly worse. He has a Quan hallucination for some reason. He's in critical condition, but now we cool. The characters walk around for about 6 minutes. Halsey cons Miranda into a quick visit. The chief freaks out on McKee for a second time. The chief tries his hand at manipulating the Keystone again. McKee assaults a nurse and doesn't get caught with the mini plasma blade. Chief and McKee into waking up in an alternate higher dimension or plane of existence on a planet that has the Halo ring in the background, and boom. That's that. We're 6 episodes into this show, and I think my main complaint at this point is that too often it just collapses under the weight of its own inconsistency within the story world. There's too many things that characters can do and get away with that just don't add up or make sense in any kind of meaningful way as it would in real life. That's a problem with a show like this that's trying to exist in this grounded space where they're trying to tell you a story that they want to actually make you suspend disbelief and believe is really happening. Nobody realizes that John and Kai are unchipped at this point, even after the combat failure in episode 5. Like, why didn't Cortana rat her out? Like, what about just standard operating procedures and diagnostics for the Spartans after they come out of battle? We've seen them hook John up to machines and monitors previously. Like, why aren't they doing that now? The scene where John locks Halsey in her lab and then triggers like a decontamination program. Like, how does that make any sense that nobody came to answer the alarm? Like, John isn't taken into custody for attempted murder of like a senior officer or scientist. There's surveillance cameras everywhere. Hell, there's witnesses everywhere. Cortana would be a witness in that situation. But no, he locks her in there, threatens to kill her unless he gets answers, and allegedly it's all just a bluff to see if Cortana can open doors. Like, dude, she shut you down once before. Like, what other limits do you think she has? It was set up for the drama, and it was pointless because we already knew that at any minute Cortana could just shut him down again, and that she didn't and just left Halsey in there to possibly be killed was stupid. And we get a bunch of weak political bullshit in this episode too. Like, this show wishes it was The Expanse or Game of Thrones, but it's not. The scene where John apologizes to Captain Keyes for losing the artifact. Keyes tells him he saved lives. Like, how? When? Like, he saved Kai, but the Covenant wrecked the house in episode 5, destroyed one of the UNSC's cruisers, and left with the artifact. The people that survived didn't survive because John did anything meaningful. Like, he saved the one Spartan. The Covenant took what they wanted and left. For a society that has like integrated AIs and advanced monitoring diagnostic technology, the chief is getting increasingly ill, falling out in public, and nobody notices or intervenes. Why doesn't Cortana notice this and shut him down and then like call Space 911? I don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. He's just progressively decompensating and no one does anything. It's harder to get into a fucking Best Buy post-COVID than it is to enter the room that has the keystone in it on the, like, literally anybody can just keypad in. We get a guy who's obviously not in his right headspace following the events of episode 5, but he's still free to wander around the base and just, you know, access the keystone storage room whenever he wants. Like, how is that a thing? Like, what was the point of the interrogation eavesdropping via VR bullshit? Like, you got Keyes and Paragonsky listening in on the JAG officer's interrogation of Halsey via some sophisticated VR monitoring system. Like, bitch, just watch the fucking camera. Like, there's no need to out-tech yourselves. And there's nothing subtle about that scene either. Paragonsky basically spelled out that she sent the JAG officer in there to entrap Halsey into mentioning the cloning research. Like, this is all things that people already knew. Like, it wasn't a state secret. So it's again them trying to be Game of Thrones, trying to make Paragonsky out to be like some top level Tywin Lannister mastermind, but it falls flat because there's no nuance to how it's executed. She told you, the viewer, through Keyes, what she was doing as it was happening. Like let me just watch it. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. We're okay. We can do this. And then on top of that scene, you get the chief busting into it and just telling the JAG officer he needs the room because he needs to interview Halsey. On what fucking planet would that happen? They'd have taken his ass into custody instantly for interfering with an investigation. Even if it wasn't part of Paragonsky's plan, that type of behavior doesn't fly in the Navy. It's just stupid to watch that kind of shit happen. Like, they're painting John as like this loose cannon rogue operative who's about to fucking time bomb any second, and it's doing the character a disservice. Like, Jesus Christ, is he a Netflix intern or is he a Spartan? Like, who barges into a meeting that his boss is conducting? It's ridiculous. I didn't hate the scene between Halsey and John, to be honest. It wasn't bad. It was kind of simple, but it shows how ruthless she is. Right after that, you get the clip where Paragonsky springs the trap, has Halsey escort her from the base, revokes her clearance and her privileges, and then tells her she's turning the Spartan program over to her daughter. In what way was Miranda Keyes qualified to run the Spartan program? Like, was not her expertise in like xenolinguistics and like Covenant biology? Not really sure this is her department, and it was just, again, it's another stab at unnecessary drama for the sake of unnecessary drama. Like, is this fucking Halo or is it a show in the CW? You tell me. But right after that, we see Chief is sick to the point of hallucinating after he does a self-diagnostic on his ship. The computer basically sounds off that he's in critical condition and orders him to med lab, but it sets off 0 alarms. One would think that it would automatically notify like some kind of like, help, I've fallen and I can't get up kind of thing.
And I can't get up! We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
But instead, the chief's like, nah, I'm fine. I'm just going to go about doing my shit. Not let anybody get in my way. And nobody asks me if I'm doing all right. Nobody checks in. The medics don't come. Halsey doesn't check in. Nothing. Fucking stupid. We get a dumbass point where Keyes tells Paragonsky there's a reason that area of space is unexplored. It's because there's nothing there. Like, motherfucker, how do you know there's nothing there if you haven't explored it? And plenty of shit can not appear on a scan, you know, from long range, from in deep space. It's just stupid shit like that. It's like it's written to make it sound clever or dramatic, and it comes across as stupid every time they get into something like that. So why the hell would they bring McKee, a potential spy, back to the base on Reach when one of the only things keeping you clowns alive in this war was that the Covenant hadn't locked in on like where humanity had originated from? Like, they don't know where Earth is yet. We brought her there not suspecting in the least that she could just signal them. Okay, cool, you guys do you. You deserve any glassings you get at this point. We do get another decent scene revealing Halsey's monstrous side. I mentioned it, but kind of cons Miranda into coming to visit her before she's taken off base, and she manages to use a set of high-tech contact lenses, probably to record Miranda's retinal scan. That way she can probably re-access the lab by remote. So we have John having a public moment of being unhinged. He's still somehow allowed to roam the base free and have access. Key in the holding cell. I needed to pass a fucking credit check to get a job, for fuck's sake. This guy can just walk around after having a couple of outbursts. That's cool, no worries. They just pile it on really too thick on this show. The plot just moves itself forward one step after the other with a bunch of inconsistencies that aren't even entertaining at this point. Just like the Marvel shows, Halo is a show that had a really interesting, intriguing setup with main character There's a lot of really cool stuff they could have done, but in lieu of that, they tried to do the introspective broken hero bullshit, and that was never Halo's flavor. This isn't that. It never needed to be this. They could have given us a series idea, something like Band of Brothers, and just put the Spartans behind enemy lines and had to have them on mission to recover an artifact or a hostage. There's any billion things they could have done, but you've got Master Chief out of the helmet, unchipped, unhinged, doing nothing but walking around looking for answers to his stolen fucking childhood, while there is still a civilization killing threat out there in the cosmos. And hey, has anybody called 911 for the fucking Covenant? Like, where have they been? Like, I'm glad that they show up every 4.5 episodes to do some cool shit for 5 minutes, but for a show about humanity facing extinction, it's surprisingly short on the extinction. And that's all I'm gonna get on this one, guys. This show's really starting to get annoying. It's not quite Marvel level annoying yet, just because I do still like the aesthetic of the show. I think it looks good. The sound design's pretty solid, but everything after that is a bunch of crap. But that's it for me on this one, guys. Stay tuned for episode 7's rant, recap, review, whatever the fuck we're gonna call it next week, and I'll see you guys in the next one.